Introduce myself first, and then I will promptly hand it over to our guests for today. My name is Dan Budak. I'm the Director of Admissions here at Vermont Law and Graduate School. I have been in my role for exactly 2 years and a week. And it has been absolutely a fantastic place to be for me to be inspired by our faculty and our students. It's really, really fantastic. Um, we are recording today's session, so feel free to go off camera or on camera, depending on how you want to do it. We're going to have a brief presentation and then student testimonials, and then we'll have most likely time for Q&A at the end. But feel free to ask questions throughout. You can raise your hand or message in the chat to ask questions. Just to check everybody's availability for the chat. How about you share where you're zooming in from today? Where are you in the world? Where are you joining us? Um, and I will hand it over to Mark James. Mark, I was reading your profile on the website, and the number of titles that you hold here at VLGS and your degrees. I was like, Mark can share what he would prefer to to share. So I'm going to hand it over to Mark, and we'll take it away.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you to everyone who's joined us. I'm Mark James. I am the interim director of the Institute for Energy and Environment. I'm also an associate professor of law at the law school with a cross appointment into the Maverick Lloyd School for the Environment, which is in our graduate school. So what does that mean? It means that I teach energy law and policy and I direct our Institute for Energy and the Environment, and I will get into both of those things and sort of what you might expect in our program, and I think some of the opportunities that exist for students to participate and really get an opportunity to apply what you're learning, to test out and refine the skills that our school will teach you, that we are not just giving you, information, we were also giving you skills and aptitudes that you're able to take forward and leverage into what you're going to do after graduation. It's always a weird thing to think about. Hey, what are you going to do after graduation when you're still thinking about getting into law school? But we are focused on getting people out and into the field, and you're going to talk to a couple of my students who are getting ready for that process too, and sort of listen and learn from their journey. So what I have planned today is I'm going to do a little mini lecture. It actually starts with uh, a war in the Middle East, and we'll talk about how that affects energy law and policy and how that affects even what's happening here in the United States, and how our program is really setting students out to be able to engage in the key questions around our energy transition, that how do we advance a just clean energy transition. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to switch and talk about our program and some of the specific things that students can engage in. And I will wrap all that up, and you'll get to hear a chance to hear from Emily and Michaela about what they have done while they've been here on campus and what they're getting ready to do in the future. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I can find everything that I have here. There we go. We'll share that. All right. Okay. So that's just, again, who I am. And this is the Strait of Hormuz. This morning, as of like 5:15 in the morning, where ships are sitting and waiting to move into or out of this critical area of the world. And you can obviously see a large number of ships grouped close to Saudi Arabia, where Saudi Arabia is beginning to cut back its production of oil because it doesn't have anywhere to store it because they can't get ships through the Strait of Hormuz, given the ongoing hostilities in Iran. Same thing with Bahrain Qatar here is the one of the second largest exporter of liquefied natural gas in the world. Ships aren't moving out of there too. So all of these, if the all of the places that connect outside of the Persian Gulf, that are waiting and depending upon shipments to move out. 20% of the world's oil moves through the Strait of Hormuz. A significant portion of its liquefied natural gas moves out, and we've been able to see that prices and things are getting to change on that too. If you've been near a gas station within the last week, that oil is a globally traded commodity, which means that the price is sort of spread. It's synchronized across the globe. So if there is a shortage in one area, it means that the price goes up sort of across the board. And here's what we've seen, from fairly flatlining, prices in the $70 range for most of the month of February to now, this is futures prices for the above 100, 110, $115 a barrel. And what does that mean for your price at the pump? You have to think about, if you take on average about 4% of the price of a barrel, that's what translates into the price that you're paying at the pump. So if you see $115 barrel of oil, what does that work out to? I mean, that's going to cost you about $4.60 a gallon at the pump. And we are seeing things for diesel moving much higher, that diesel prices have gone up by $1 a gallon within the last week. And that will come, all of the things that you get shipped to you, that's just going to cost more. So that's important to know, how global trade is impacted by geopolitics. It's a key part of our program. And the things we don't even often think about being connected into the world of energy is fertilizer and the food that we're going to grow. Most fertilizer is produced from natural gas, and there is significant fertilizer production in the Middle East because you have access to cheap gas, you have access to cheap power. So they are converting the natural gas that's being produced into fertilizer, and that's getting shipped to India, China, throughout Southeast Asia. And we are in the northern hemisphere moving into our planting season. Some places might have actually even begun to do it. Farmers are beginning to put crops into the ground, and that means that they are fertilizing their crops with, urea and other nitrogen-based fertilizers, which are most likely going to be derived from natural gas. Well, imagine that you can't get that fertilizer out of the strait, through the Strait of Hormuz, to get it delivered to those farmers when they're needing it. That's going to have implications for food production. That has implications for the stability of governments, the cost of food, and that everything that in our world that gets moved around touches somehow on our energy systems. It covers everything that we do. And we have to think about the impacts globally, and that's what unforeseen consequences of launching a war in the middle of Northern Hemisphere's planting season, and how that will have impacts throughout the whole year on the ability to supply food to populations which might already be in a food deficit. And that brings me to what does our program do? What's it looking at? I think the best way I've found to describe it is that we are a program that is looking at this conflict between electrons and molecules. We want to advance a clean energy system which is based off of making of renewable energy and finding ways to generate zero emissions electricity. We know how to do that. That is going to be the foundation of our system. What we currently have is a system which is primarily based on molecules and the movement of molecules around, whether from places in the Middle East to the US becoming the largest exporter of oil and natural gas in the world. Here we have a methane molecule, and then there's a molecule here that's part of a gasoline blend. That this is the conflict that is going on in our energy transition. We are developing solutions for getting the services that we want, the heating, the cooling, the mobility, all the thing that we need. We can get that through electricity, and we're seeing electricity expand into how we get those services. it will not be it is a conflict. There are vested interests who want specific outcomes, and this is what we're now moving into what I call the mid-transition period, where it's not going to be easy, that there will be pushback. We've seen that here in the United States with the current administration, and it's definitely pro-fossil fuel outlook. So our program is going to talk about how we do decarbonization and electrification. Just to make those terms clear, one is how do we make clean electrons? How do we get clean electrons to things that you're using? If you're watching this on your computer, if you have a heat pump in your house, if you have an electric vehicle outside, you're getting your services through electricity. We don't eat or drink electrons, but we use them to do pretty much everything else. And it is table setting. So how do we begin to understand what the issues are and the challenges are and get students ready to go out and participate in those discussions? We do that by working through a lot of the theory, a lot of the practical applications, things that are going on the ground, decisions that are getting made, institutions and actors that are important. So first one, those two races, we have the decarbonization race. How much clean electricity can we generate? Can we generate 100% of our electricity that we're consuming with clean electrons? The other part is, can we electrify everything that's using fossil fuels? If you have a propane heater or boiler in your house, or hot water heater, or a gasoline car in your driveway, how do we change those uses over to electricity so that we can use the decarbonized electricity to power them? Electrification will determine how much decarbonization we need to do. And we work on both of those aspects when we are teaching our students, getting our students into our clinics and getting them out into practical opportunities, that we do not think just about build more solar and wind. We think about changing molecules into electrons for how we get the services that we want. So where are we in that? And where can you contribute to it? I think I always say we need more people. We need more people who understand the key elements of these challenges and then how to apply their skills and knowledge to it, because we are just at the beginning of this conflict. We're in the mid-transition period, so we're about 20% of our electricity coming from solar and wind. This is globally. If you add in nuclear power, you're about 40%. So for clean energy sources. On the electrification side, we're getting there. China is about 30% for its final energy share. The US has been kind of flat. We have seen massive growth in renewables. What we have not seen is significant increases in electrification at the point of end use. So there's a lot of work to be done. And that work happens at the federal level, happens at the state level, happens at the local level, it happens internationally through the advancement of technologies, through development of policies, through the interpretation of regulations, through the writing of legislation. Everything that has to happen across the board for us to be successful in these two races, these mutually connected races. And we are working on that in our program about how to do things, and then adding in how to do it in a just and equitable fashion, how to advance principles of distributive justice and procedural justice, where marginalized entities, marginalized parties are now able to participate and share in the benefits of this energy transition. We don't want to repeat the past. We want to change the future, and that's what we're trying to do here in our program. So where are we right now? Started with some bad news about what's happening in our current energy systems and the disruption that's going on. I think that we need to end this particular lecture on some good news, and I think that we are seeing now that renewables are meeting 3/4 or more of electricity demand. So all the increasing demand in the globe, 3/4 of that is going to renewables, 40% to solar. So we're seeing we're consuming what I call that growth element too. So fossil fuels are going to go through this period of peak where we're still increasing fossil fuel use, but it's going to peak perhaps as early as 2030, depending on what China does. It will then go flat for a while. And then renewables will begin to eat fossil fuels lunch. So it will begin to take away, in an existing share that fossil fuels has, and we will see peak, plateau, and then decline. And that's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years, where we will see this process begin to go. It will not be easy. As I said before, there are parties who would like a different outcome and are working very hard to achieve that. But I believe that we have physics on our side with improving technology, we have economics on our side, and we have geopolitics, where if you have an opportunity to say, hey, if I'm charging my electric vehicle, the price that I've paid to charge it didn't go up this week. If I'm going to get gas in my internal combustion current internal combustion vehicle, I'm paying 50 to 60 cents more a gallon this week. Where do you want to have your certainty? And fossil fuels are not providing that certainty. So, what do? We have here at the IEE places for students to get engaged. We have our degree programs, we'll talk about that, our energy clinic, our research associate program, what we do in the summer, and some of our career opportunities. This is our graduates from 2 years ago. We have a party at the end of before every commencement, where people are able to come and be with us. So I'll talk about our programs, things you can come in and do. We have our Masters of Energy Regulation and Law. We have our joint, which is focused on energy law and policy, our joint degree, and our JD and our joint degree. So our students are able to do your JD and your Masters of Energy Regulation and Law, and Emily will talk about that at the same time, and you graduate with both degrees after 3 years. For those of you in the online hybrid program, we have an energy track for an LLM. We also have an LLM in energy law, which is, again, a focused degree on energy law and policy. There also is an energy concentration available too. I do see that one of our speakers is featured in this particular picture, and Mikhail will be along to talk about her journey into energy law and how she constructed her degree. Things you can do while you're here. We have a year-round pro bono transactional energy law clinic. We work with clients in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, to primarily low and moderate income residents, to ensure that they get to participate in energy transition. That involves working on affordable housing, community solar projects, tax credit analysis for people doing different types of renewable energy projects. Lots of things going on there too, and students get an opportunity to see what it's like to be a lawyer. We are a small scale renewable energy development firm, and you get to work with a supervising attorney and help develop projects, help do things to advance the transition. You can do that in the spring, summer, fall, different credits you can take. Both of the students who are going to follow me will be able to talk about their experience in the energy clinic and how to join that. We also have a research associate program, which is available to both the clinic and the research associate program are available after your first year. We have fall, spring, summer opportunities. You get to work on research projects. Variety of different ways you can do that. You join the institute, you get one of the fancy vests that you see in our picture here. But we have projects ongoing on offshore wind community benefit agreements. We're working on an oil and gas managed transition project. We're doing environmental justice work in Mississippi and Alabama around wood pellet manufacturing facilities. You get to come in, you get a chance to write, to publish, and to be part of our energy community. Here's just a list of different things that we have published with students on different issues we've worked on, from cybersecurity to battery storage to beneficial electrification in agriculture to how to electrify your car while you're living in the Upper Valley. All things done with students as part of our research associate program. And just want to promote, as you're thinking about coming in, if you're you'll be starting in the fall. When we get to the summer of 2027, I would strongly encourage thinking about our energy summer session. It is our deep dive into energy law and policy, with focus classes taught by experts in the field, people who have 30, 40 years worth of practice in the field, who are engineers, who are economists, different things that they have going on, and able to really immerse yourself into the nitty gritty of energy law. It is transformative in how you will think about energy law and policy, and also the opportunities that you'll be opening up for yourself. And those opportunities, chances to go that some of our recent graduates are at, law firms, national, international law firms. They work for renewable energy development companies, building projects. They do regulatory work at the federal and state level, work in public utility commissions, work for the utilities themselves, work for nonprofits, work as consulting at consulting firms and think tanks. It used to be that if you wanted to be in energy law, you either worked for the utility or you worked for the regulator. That has changed in the last decade, that there's just so much going on. There are people who are building projects, there are people who are advancing justice initiatives. The utility work has changed immensely in what they're taking on. Regulators have new obligations. There's just so much attention coming on to this critical issue as we think about it from, I've made it all the way to the end here, and now is the point when I'm going to talk about climate as we think about energy as sort of the cause of our climate issues and the likely solution to them as well. That we have just been, there's so much available in this space to work with, both in the topic, the geography or location you want to be in. I tell people that if you tell me where you want to be, I can find someone, an alumni who's there to chat with you about it. If you tell me what work you'd like to do, I can find someone who can talk to you about that too. And this is our picture from our alumni and energy event, which we've now run for 12 years. We do it during New York City's Climate Week. And it is a place where we bring together our amazing alumni who are there to help assist you in your journey into the field of energy law and policy. So that is what I have to present with you. I want to turn the screen back over to Dan, and I think we will move forward in letting everybody else chat about what work they've been doing.
Mark, that was fantastic. Thank you. You truly only scratched the surface, and I know how much work is being done in the IEE is pretty amazing. I do want to hand it over to our students now. First, we have Emily Dwight. Emily, why don't you introduce yourself and talk about your journey before and during your time at VLGS?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mark. Really was getting some flashbacks there to last year and all four classes that I got to take with you. Happy to see, more of your slides always. But my name is Emily Dwight. I am a third year JD Merle student. So I am in the joint degree program, pursuing both the JD and the Master's in Energy Regulation and Law. Before coming to law school, I was working at a large law firm in DC, doing more business management, and I kind of wound up falling into the role there and falling into the energy practice group and real property group with that firm. And it really kind of opened my eyes for what I wanted to do for law school. But prior to that, I really was thinking that I was going to be an art insurance attorney. I got an undergraduate degree in arts management, and that's like really where my heart and passion was lying. But I did a lot of business development and pitching and working with the attorneys who were in the energy and real property spaces. And they really kind of changed my course and changed where I even applied to law school. So when I started going through the application cycle, I really was only looking at schools that offered either a specific energy law curriculum, if they had an energy clinic, or if they had a couple of classes. Those were the schools that I was looking at. And I was really fortunate to be able to get into all of the schools that I applied to and get to choose then. And I'll be very honest, like, the scariest part about coming to Vermont was the Vermont part of it all, moving to South Royalton and kind of uprooting my life in the city in DC, not being able to, DoorDash something. That was very scary for me. But I actually came to Admitted Students Day now, I guess, 3 years ago. And I got to talk with Mark and several other members of the IEE during a lunch there, and they really kind of quelled my fears about the Vermont part of it. And I then couldn't ignore the rest of the components that VLGS offered within this joint degree program. Not only did they have the classes, but they also had the clinic. and they had the research associate program. I could join the journals, the law review, whether it was law review or the Vermont Journal of Environmental Law. I could do so many other things. And when I kind of stacked VLGS up against the other schools that I was looking at, there were 10 things in the VLGS bucket and only one or two in some of the other schools. And for me, since I knew that energy was what I wanted to do, it kind of became very obvious that if I could get over the moving to South Royalton and moving to Vermont um, kind of scary thing, this was obviously going to be the place for me. And I'm really happy that I did. I think I don't know that I would have been as successful both in law school and then transitioning out of law school had I made another choice and gone to another school. I think being in South Royalton is very scary because you're just in South Royalton. And for me, that was just not something I've ever done. I've never lived in a small town. I moved here and the lady at the bank like knew my name immediately on day two when I like walked in to go get a check to buy a car. And people at the post office, when I opened my PO box, were so kind and had some suggestions on where to go get the best creamies, and which is Vermont's beautiful maple version of like soft serve ice cream. And the community, both within the town and the school, really started to shine. But you get to be in like a small town environment, a small community. I felt really supported through my 1L year. And then it still gave me the space to focus on school. And that was really important for me. I knew coming into school that I wanted to go back to a big law space. And so I was really fortunate to have been able to do that. But one of the biggest selling points for me when I was applying to a big law firm 2L summer internship was the JD Merle program. I applied directly for a lot of these firms, kind of early summer admissions for this second year summer opportunity when I was had just finished my 1L year. And a lot of them were asking me, well, what is this summer classes that you're taking? What do you mean? You know what FERC stands for when I was in interviews. And even though I'd only taken the first of the series in the, Essentials of an Electric Grid, which is one of my favorite classes and was one of my favorite like summer classes that we got to take, or I got to take during my first summer here. I had a lot of like meat to chew on and be able to have a discussion with these practitioners who are experts in their field. And they thought that it was really incredible that I both was going to have this experience and that I could show them, well, okay, I've not taken these classes yet, but in the fall, I'm taking energy law and policy in a carbon constrained world. I'm taking oil and gas. I'm taking energy regulations and markets. I will know and have all of this substantive knowledge to be able to bring to you and bring to the firm when I join as a 2L summer student. And so for me, it was the best kind of coalition of both what I wanted to do post law school and then having the JD Merle kind of support me through that. And so since I've been here, I've also gotten to work in the clinic, and I was in the clinic my first summer, and I worked mostly on some of the community solar and got to work on projects, and I drafted some EPC agreements and got to do some of the group net metering agreements. And then the following summer, when I was at my firm, I did the same things, just on a much, much bigger scale. And I already had a lot of those experiences and those skill sets. I knew what an EPC agreement was. I knew what I should be looking for. I knew what our client was going to likely want to have protected and what their interests were, just because I had been exposed to that, even though it was in this different community solar space. And so the clinic that summer was really helpful for me, kind of then having my 2L summer experience. And then, after I've had my time at the firm, I'm excited to return after studying for the bar exam and taking the bar, unfortunately. Oh, that's the worst part about going to law school is the bar. But even then, this fall, I got to go back to the clinic, and I was an advanced clinician, and I still got to do some of that work, but I also got to do new work and got pushed into doing some hydro work. And it just keeps opening a new layer and a new thing for me to kind of explore. While here, I've also gotten to do lots of other things that aren't just the JD Merle. I'm on the law review and have been involved with that. I wrote a piece with Mark James earlier this year for the Vermont Journal of Environmental Law's top 10 issues, which got to be published, and that was really exciting. I've done lots of other things and been able to have a very full student social life as well, gotten involved on campus in other clubs with the Energy Law Society and the Student Bar Association. So overall, I think things kind of really worked out. The world kind of has a weird way of taking you exactly to the right place at the right time and where you're needed. And so for me, I think 3 years ago, it was learning that that was indeed South Royalton. It was a small, small town in rural Vermont, but I'm happy to talk about any of the things. I know I kind of just threw a lot at you in about 7 minutes, maybe eight, but I'll leave it there as kind of my intro.
Outstanding. Thank you, Emily. Just to wrap or put a bow on it, you're finishing up this semester. Is this your final semester?
Yes, I'm in my final semester, so I have a lovely last 6.5 weeks of classes where I'm really only taking about two classes, which is beautiful. I would highly recommend if you can build your schedule in the future for law school that you kind of give yourself a little break at the end. But then I'm taking the bar exam, and then I will be going back to Sidley Austin in the fall, and we'll be doing a fellowship just prior to joining Sidley Austin with the National Women's Law Center.
Amazing. Thank you. I love to hear when our students have already secured their next job. Um, Speaking of the bar exam and surviving it and getting that out of the way, I want to introduce Michaela. Michaela, why don't you kind of take the reins and tell us about your journey?
Yeah, I'm Michaela. I recently graduated at VLGS and I just took the Massachusetts bar a couple of weeks ago and I survived. And so everyone else will. My experience at VLGS helped sharpen my interest for energy and environmental law. And one of the things I really value about VLGS is the sense of community that it offers. It's a school where people genuinely support one another, and that made a big difference in my experience. Professors are approachable, classmates were collaborative, not really competitive, and there was a sense of shared commitment around the environment, energy, and common public interest issues. And that kind of environment made it really easy for me to build relationships and ask questions and grow both academically and professionally. Prior to law school, I worked at a civil litigation firm as a legal assistant, and it had nothing to do with the environment, but my background for my bachelor's degree was zoology, so animal behavior, and I knew I wanted to be in the environmental realm. So the lawyers at the civil litigation firm kind of actually guided me towards Vermont because it's known for their environmental courses. And so when I was looking at the top law schools for the environment, I wanted to attend a law school that specialized in the environment, but also offered nuanced, in-depth courses in that specific field. And that's what obviously led me to choose Vermont Law. They have amazing, well thought out environmental law curriculum, and especially in energy law, they have more than a handful of energy law courses that aren't offered anywhere else, to my knowledge. And they the curriculum incorporates like practical real world policy work and I also thought it was important to study in a place like Vermont where it practices where it preaches, and Vermont's very environmentally conscious, and I wanted to be surrounded by the environment while I digested all of this new knowledge that I was trying to focus my career on. And the professors at the school were just deeply engaged in shaping and implementing policies about climate change and other social impacts, like just energy transition, like Mark said. Um, and at first, energy was not on my radar at all. I had no idea what energy law was. I just knew I wanted to be in the realm of environmental law. And I actually didn't even know it existed until I moved to Vermont and met my neighbors, my 3L neighbors who were in the clinic, and they totally sold me on the clinic. And so then I talked to um, Jenny Carter, and she convinced me that I had to come to all the energy clinic events and be a part of this community that I now love. And so after attending all the events, I realized how pivotal energy is to addressing climate change and how it accounts for such a significant portion of our emissions. And I immediately saw how much of an impact I can make by working in this field. So I decided to pursue the energy law and policy concentration, and that's what I have now. I have a JD with the energy law concentration, which is just the electives that I chose were energy focused. And so once I began taking courses for the concentration and working on real world projects at the clinic involving clean energy infrastructure and regulatory issues, I saw that that was a space where I wanted to build my career in. I felt like I was a part of something at that moment. And by the end of my 2L year, my interest in energy really solidified, and I focused more intentionally on energy and environmental law. And that's what led me to get my internship at the Environmental Defense Fund. And I really used the real world experience I got from the clinic at the nonprofit. And it was really nice because I knew all the acronyms that they were using. I didn't have to do any extra studying to understand what they were talking about in the meetings. And I felt like I was already 2 steps ahead of my fellow intern, which was really nice. At the clinic, I worked on several matters with both research and practical components. I focused on um, my first big project at the clinic, I focused on how to best leverage the Inflation Reduction Act to maximize benefits for the low income to moderate low income resident owned community solar projects, which involved a lot of tax research, which I didn't know anything about, but my supervisor at the clinic really helped me um, with all my research and guided me through the complexities of tax law. And I think at that moment is when I realized environmental law and energy law it doesn't encompass what I thought. It encompasses every type of law you can think of to get to get to the moment that you need to succeed in your project that you want. And in addition to that, I worked with a local company on EV service lease agreement to install chargers in like a parking lot in New Hampshire. On the research side, I examined uh, when a facility could be placed in service, again, for tax purposes. I analyzed Treasury regulations and a lot of case law surrounding that based on a landfill project that we were working on. And another cool thing that we did was we evaluated proposals for a municipal solar project where we assessed the developer's compliance with RFPs, and we got to interview them and work with the town. And me and my supervisor got to recommend which developer to choose for these big solar projects that would change their lives significantly. So that was cool. I got to draft like the recommendation for it and really be a part of it. And I think that's all I have.
And you were only in law school for 3 years?
2.5.
Ah,
I Yeah, half after your first year, depending on your grades, you get invited to be a part of the accelerated program. And
mhm.
so I joined the accelerated program, took summer classes, and then I got my internship with the Environmental Defense Fund the next summer. So I decelerated and graduated in December um instead of May, so a semester early.
Marvelous.
Yeah.
I'm even more astounded at what you were able to achieve in only 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Um, Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I would like to invite everybody, if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. We're happy to answer those. Mark, I do have a question, kind of a follow-up. We're talking largely residential JD students. Are there opportunities for our online hybrid students to also be connected with the energy folks?
Yes, yes, there are. There are the online hybrid students can do they do have access to the Master's in Energy Regulation and Law degree too to start if you're looking sort of to add in that degree. It does terminate, it concludes at the same time as you're finishing your online hybrid JD, the 10 semesters in that program too. But we have opened up our research associate program to online students. We've had that for a while now too, actually. Um, More than half of the current research associates that I have working for me are remote in California, New Jersey, Utah, not just in South Royalton. So they're able to work remotely in that. We have taken in students in our energy clinic on a case by case basis who are able to contribute to that. We had a couple semesters last semester, had a student join us from Dallas, Texas, who was doing work on those too. So definitely there are opportunities to participate in our programs, access to all of the degrees. Emily was involved in the Energy Law Society heavily last year, but they have opened up and made that student group to be both residential and online students too, to integrate them in and find activities and events for them to participate. It is sort of a cohesive community and especially as we strengthen our online program to make sure that we're giving the same access to opportunities for whether you are here in Vermont or elsewhere.
That's really
I
cool.
also want to just note that Michaela and Emily are slightly modest in what they were doing in the clinic. We got approval. We helped a nearby municipality secure $120,000 in additional tax credits, and Michaela worked directly on that project, and Emily has made some serious contributions to some of our community solar projects and helping get things built that will directly impact local communities. We've actually had one community member tell us that we reduced his electricity bill by 44%. So that's the sort of thing that students are doing when they are, very early on in their energy careers.
That's really cool. Mark, with the current landscape of the federal government changing their kind of tack for energy, clean energy efforts, is the job market, are you seeing the job markets shift? Are there kind of other folks stepping up?
We are seeing there's a ton of opportunities at the state level. I think that we often don't think about that. Every single state will have a public utility commission and a state energy office. Those are places where if you wish to work, to go back home to work, or perhaps switch where you want to work to, that there are places that people can go immediately do that. I think I counted them up yesterday with a student. I think we're more than half the states in the country. We've had somebody either currently in or has been in state government. There still is a lot of work happening in the renewable energy development space. We're seeing some emerging opportunities around what I call electrotech, climate tech, just bringing in new technologies to help us do that electrification work. So people who are able to integrate business law and energy law and policy understanding, the regulatory work. There are people just doing straight regulatory work, and just a lot more attention around the role of energy markets and parties who traditionally have never looked at those as a place where it's important for them to be represented are now seeking experienced and educated practitioners to come in and represent their interests and ensure that they're getting closer to achieving their goals.
That's awesome. Um, Emily and Michaela, I want to ask about kind of the support you received in either finding an externship or an internship, and other career support that you've had.
Yeah, I can start. I will say I got extremely lucky very quickly when I was going through the Big Law summer application process. Usually what happens is you send out about 60 to 100 applications and you just kind of hope and pray something sticks and you're the right fit somewhere. And you likely won't hear for a month or so, or maybe even longer. I was pretty rare in that I got lucky and I applied on a Sunday, had a screener on Monday, had a 4-hour interview on Friday, and had an offer by Monday evening. Um, with that said, though, I had and still did speak with several alumni who have worked in the private big law firm kind of space. And Mark has connected me to them multiple times, and I've gotten to speak with them about their experience and coming from a much smaller school and how that looks. And so that was really, really wonderful for me. So I think my experience finding that was a little bit of an anomaly, because I also then used that summer, my 2L summer internship, as the credit requirement for fulfilling my master's in energy regulation and law internship requirement. So that was supervised by Mark over the summer.
Very cool.
Yeah, my experience, I guess I didn't really utilize career services, I guess, as well as I should have, but I've heard they are helpful. I got lucky and I applied for one internship and I got it, but not a lot of people were as lucky as I was. Currently right now is Mark is actually getting me in touch with some people and helping me find a position where I could possibly intern while I wait for my bar results. And so Mark is like a godsend with all the connections that he has. So that's my experience.
I will say too, to add to this, I think Michaela and I both were very kind of lucky that the first kind of iron that we threw in the fire worked
Hmm.
out. But I will also say that I think a lot of the reasons why it worked out was that we had the knowledge and were able to present ourselves in a way that made us desirable in the marketplace. And like I don't think we could have done that. I'm going to speak for you, Michaela, and so you
Yeah,
can
go
me around,
ahead,
but
go
like
ahead.
I don't think we would have necessarily been as successful as quickly without, having experienced our 1L
Mhm.
summer kind of energy classes and having all of the extra environmental knowledge when we were applying for these. Since you're also applying with every other 1L or every other 2L at every other school, and so having something unique can really make you stand out as an applicant.
That's really helpful. Mark, you did mention the summer classes. Are those available? So in-person classes, are those also available for our online hybrid students to come in and take those over the summer?
Yes, they are. They are only offered in person. We don't have
Hmm.
it. We're not currently set up to have them offered as the hybrid option, but they are everything that we have is either the longest is a week. It's 4 days. So there are opportunities to come in and take a class or take a couple of classes, spend some lovely time in beautiful summery Vermont. It is gorgeous to be able to do that and be able to quickly add those in. We've had a number of students come in and join us, people from California, Tennessee, Texas, and other places who've come for a couple of classes just to say, I'm going to add in this, and they kind of plan it out where, over a couple of summers, they're able to come and take different classes and get exposure to. And we have made accommodations where we have workspace if you need to be in a class in the morning, but you have to take a call for work in the afternoon. We have places where people can go and do that too. We are ready to adjust to whatever people might need so they can come and take those classes with us.
That's really cool. Emily and Michaela, I'm going to throw it back to you. What's your favorite non-energy thing you did while you've been here in at VLGS? Is there like an annual event or an organization that you really got connected to?
Um, all of the student organizations throw the best gatherings, and there's always free food and amazing music, and it's just an amazing way to let loose with your friends and talk about something other than what you're reading for the next class. Yeah.
Initially, when you asked that, I thought you were going to ask what was your favorite like non-energy class, and then I
Yeah,
was
me too.
what class was it going to be? But I think mine is definitely Swan Ball. Um, I am
Yeah.
actively involved with Swan Ball. I am in charge of Swan Ball this year, but it's essentially law school prom, and it is incredible. It's usually just one weekend in the spring. We do it normally up in Burlington, and it's just really fun to kind of get out of town for the weekend, get an Airbnb or some hotel rooms with friends and have a weekend up in Burlington. And usually everyone like gets dressed up and it's fun. This year's theme is Renaissance theme, so I'm very excited.
Were you instrumental in choosing that theme?
Oh, no, there was no option. I picked it. I have a committee, but my committee I have built out of my friends and they just say yes. So I did just pick it.
That's fantastic. Any other questions from folks? I know we've had a handful in the chat. Um, as we're kind of going through, I think we've hit everything that's been asked. Mark, any final things that you're? Oh, here we go. Land law. Can you speak a little bit to land law?
Why don't Emily or Michaela, have either of you taken land use here while you're
I
at
have
school?
not taken land use, but I did work on a land use project in the clinic. A lot of like the zoning regulations, but that's all the experience I have.
So we have an amazing land use law professor, Professor Janet Milne, who also does environmental taxation, and sort of a global expert in that. Helped start a global conference that pulls in hundreds of people every year. Um, so yes, we have land use, and it helps. I think what I tell people is who've asked about, "Well, if I do energy law, what other classes should I take?" I'm like, take land use. I said because eventually it comes down to a local zoning board or a town committee who
Mm,
you have to convince to give you the approval to do what you want to do, and that requires being able to look at local ordinances and make your argument for how that works. And we've integrated that into our energy program. Michaela and Emily have both worked on projects where we've had to get um, zoning variances to different zoning things for local committees. We also, for local town councils, we also have a project we're working on affordable housing in a nearby town where we had to actually help rewrite the town bylaws to get it a sustainable community designation, which then gave it access to some state priority funding. And it's taken us since 2019, and in 2025, people started moving into these low income net zero affordable housing units. And it's because we practiced land use law to get there too. And our students have a chance to get into the classroom and take it with an amazing professor, but then get out of the classroom and into the clinic and actually practice it and see what it looks like um, in the field.
Yeah, if I could just quickly add to, I think one of the things to think about when you're coming to law school is you're just baking a cake. All of the kind of 1L doctrinal classes and any other substantive class that is you're building the cake. It's the structure, it's the sponge. And then the energy law part is kind of the frosting and it's all of the other pieces. And so like you
Hmm.
are going to have to know all of those things or at least know where to go look or know who to go ask. So how you build your cake, whether you make it like a chocolate cake or whatever, vanilla, it's kind of the frosting. Energy law is the frosting, and so it touches all of these other pieces, and so it touches things like tax, which I never thought I would have an interest in tax law, and now I'm like, oh, this is pretty interesting. And so there are kind of these different avenues or these other slices of the cake that you can kind of go into.
That's a wonderful metaphor, especially if you love frosting, right?
Yeah.
So that's excellent there. Emery, I see your hand up. Do you want to come off mute and ask a question?
Yeah. Oh God, that's how I look. Okay. Hi, my name is Emery Kilic. I'm a son of Turkish parents from Houston. I had a question regarding your international opportunities. I saw online and spoke briefly with somebody about the union law. I did sustainability reporting in the energy sector in Houston after undergrad, and then we have family friends in Turkey who they run a nonprofit wind farm. So I'm wondering what kind of opportunities there are to liaison internationally and to grow energy in an international capacity.
So I'll take that. I guess I'll take this one. We have connections sort of across the globe. People who are whether I was just speaking to people, one prospective student and one former student who are in Malawi and Uganda. Other people who are in Europe and other places too. So we have connections across people who worked at the International Energy Agency. And then we have done projects and we've done research projects looking at sort of taking international perspective. We are in the process of finishing a report doing an analysis of renewable energy policies in the Caribbean, which was used to inform energy policy development in China. And with that, we have a couple of professors who are very connected into Asia. One of them runs the Transnational Environmental Law Clinic. Right now, they're doing carbon credit analysis work and helping countries comply with UNFCCC Article 6 and doing that sort of work too. So we are very much tapped into that. We have in the past gone to Cuba. I know that Emily went on that trip. We did an international trip to Cuba. There's an EU class that just came back from Trento over spring break. So just a week ago, they were in Italy looking at EU law. We bring in our summer program, depending upon where you are coming in, we have a global energy law and policy class, which is taught from a South American perspective, from a European perspective. So this year will be South America, next year will be Europe. So we do have classes and experts who are coming in to specifically talk about those projects. And I'm in discussions about collaborations about some decarbonization work in Europe and how we are thinking about a managed transition away from natural gas as a heating source too. So lots of different things where we're connecting in at the academic level, but also trying to have our alumni who are practicing come back and talk about their experiences and share their networks and leverage their connections to help people who have an interest like yourself. You're not the only one who has an interest in international law and combining that with energy to be able to give them places and contacts that they can go to in order to understand what is possible for them in that field, whether it's working on international issues well here in the United States, where we've had alumni at the UN doing work, or it is finding places to go abroad. And one of our 2L joint degree students is actually going to go and be an intern at the NSOE, which organizes all the transmission systems in Europe. And she's going to be there for this summer and fall semester. She's going to be there about eight months in total, working on European grid issues. So there's a lot of places where we're fortunate to have built up a network of connections that we now leverage to help students get opportunities to work in the things that they want to.
Thank you.
That's amazing. I do, Dan, I see your hand, and if Mark and Michaela and Emily, are you able to stay on for a couple more minutes? I do want to thank everybody. If you do have to hop off, thank you for coming, and we'll get the recording and contact information and all of that out to you within the next couple of days. Dan, want to come off mute, ask your question?
Thank you, sir. I just want to thank the panel for the time. It's been very informative. Quickly, for the environmental focus, which I am attracted to, I understand, licensing, I understand policy reform. Is there a litigation component to try and better prepare students that might look to just have consequences for some of these for-profit organizations that do such irreparable harm, even against policy?
There are a couple of different ways to do that. So our energy clinic is transactional law and focused. We are seeking to avoid litigation when possible. We had to do litigation in one specific instance with a disgruntled neighbor. But we do have our environmental advocacy clinic is that source where they are actively bringing litigation against different entities. They're doing right now. They've done a bunch of forestry work recently, but they've worked on waste or garbage burning or waste, incineration facilities and in environmental justice communities. So they have worked on that too. We do have an active moot court program, which gives people the chance to sort of try out and develop those skills. So every student, Michaela and Emily, have gone through doing appellate advocacy where everybody has a chance to practice that. Many students go on to do another class in that or to pursue a moot court opportunity. Whether it's in energy law, environmental law, international environmental law, animal law, that you can get a chance to what's it like to write a brief, make an oral argument, to do that too. And we've had students who have also gone and done a summer internship or externship, or maybe why they do it during their JD, during their third year, their final year, have gone and worked in attorney general's offices, have gone and worked for nonprofit groups. One of my students this summer will be at the Center for Biological Diversity, and they're bringing a lot of litigation against the federal government for marine mammal issues, offshore wind, fossil fuel development. So she's going to go and work on that too. And we have, again, a huge network of connections of people who are at every major and minor environmental nonprofit who are doing litigation work. Earth Justice, Sierra Club, NRDC. We have alumni there, and we've been able to leverage that to get students access to summer opportunities or externship opportunities where you get a chance to practice that, try it out outside of everything that we're doing here on campus for you.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you all so much, Mark, Emily, and Michaela. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your insight, your wisdom, and of course, good luck as you're moving forward in the semester, and Michaela moving forward with your internship opportunities. This is really fantastic. I learned a lot. I hope everybody else took something away from today. Have a good one.